I think I'd rather run 26 miles than birth a child right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I think I'd rather give birth. Running 26 miles? I couldn't even run 26
I was 10 and a
meters.
half pounds.
Yeah, true. It's C-section all day.
Yeah, it would have to be a sunroof job and not through the actual. Welcome back to another episode of Girls Know Nothing. Our next guest made her debut onto our TV screens back in 2019 and has since then used her audience of over 1 million followers to educate people on her plant-based lifestyle as well as her egg freezing journey. So welcome to the studio, India. Yeah, so earlier I was talking to you about being vegan. I didn't know that you were vegan.
So I don't think I would describe myself as vegan because I feel like vegan is when you have like no leather clothing or anything like that. So I'd say I'm more like plant-based. Okay. So I don't eat any fish or meat or dairy or eggs or anything like that.
And how long have you been
like
not
6
eating?
years?
Oh my God. Okay. You probably get it all the time. Everybody be like, oh, I would be plant-based, but I can't give up. For me, it's cheese. I can't give up cheese.
Everyone says cheese. I know. To be fair, I don't mind the vegan cheese. Like I used to I know it sounds really horrible, like a plastic burger cheese, like slices of cheese. I'm like thrilled.
Like the
with
ones from McDonald's.
Yeah. Or like Philadelphia, which you can get vegan. So I'm actually all right.
Can you?
Yeah, Philadelphia did a vegan one now.
I didn't know that. Yeah, because for me, I remember one Christmas I bought like a vegan Wensleydale and I opened it and the smell
It was disgusting.
knocked me for sick. And I was like, no, I just put it straight in the bin.
I think there's some things that they're trying to do vegan and maybe in like 5 years or something it'll be good. Yeah. But now it's just not quite there.
So how come you decided to like go down the plant-based route?
I'm going to be totally honest. I was dating a vegan guy. Okay. And he was like, I was like really into him. And he was like, I think you should, why don't you watch these documentaries? Like try it out. And
Cowspiracy.
Yeah, Cowspiracy was one of them and Vegucated, I think was the other one, which was like, there were some little bits in it that were so grim about like little chicks and stuff. So I basically like fancied him. So I put myself off eating. I mean, this is not a great like standpoint for like women's rights.
It's all right. We've all been there. We've all done something weird to like impress a guy.
Exactly. So I was like, I'll try it. And then like he obviously is long gone, but the veganism stuck. Well, the plant-based diet stuck. I actually quite enjoyed it. And once I'd seen all that stuff, you can't unsee it. Yeah. Like a lot of people are like, if I'm talking about it to them, will be like, no, I don't want to see it, which is absolutely fair enough. Because once you've seen it, it's like, oh no, I feel bad.
It's like when they were talking about bringing American chicken to the UK, because I've seen how they look after the American chicken. No. And I'd have to be a vegetarian. So I used to be veggie. I'd have to go back to being veggie.
If they bought the chicken, yeah. Also, did you ever see that like meme and it was like of apparently what the KFC chickens looked like? Yeah. Yeah. No, I can never eat
And
KFC.
I've seen how they make gravy as well and I wouldn't eat that either.
Oh no, it's disgusting.
But do you find that has there been benefits for you? Because a lot of people don't, like I went vegan for a couple of weeks. My personal trainer thought he'd try it out on me.
Why not?
It made me bloated. Like
really?
I just swelled up.
I think probably if you did it for longer, your body would get like adjust a little bit. I don't know, like for me, it probably made me less bloated and less tired after meals.
Okay.
But I think everyone expects you to be like, oh my God, there's been a huge change. It's changed my life. And like for some people, maybe it does. For me, I kind of feel the same.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I'm always really interested to know because I felt really tired and just swollen. So I was like, please just let me eat an egg.
Yeah. Can I go back to
please
normal,
just let me eat something normal.
Also, I think it's like a lot about cutting down on your intake rather than like totally cutting it out. Like you don't have to be that extreme, but maybe just have like a little bit less.
Because I was going to ask you, do you see yourself as someone who like educates more on the plant-based lifestyle?
A little bit, but I don't like to be pushy. Okay. Like I think anyone, if they want to do something, they'll come and ask you questions. I think if you start preaching, then they'll probably go off the idea.
You'll probably get loads of trolling as well.
Pardon?
You'll probably get loads of trolling as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like loads of really angry people that just really like milk.
Yeah, or like steak.
But there is a lot of stigma around people that have like plant-based lifestyles for that reason. Like being preachy.
Being too preachy, I know. That's why I'm like, I want to stay out of that bracket.
Okay, because that's why I was like,
The only time I'll say something is like, say I go out for dinner with a group of people and then someone starts saying stuff to me like, oh, why aren't you having me? Or why, do you know what I mean? Picking at me. Then I'll be like, this is why. Other than that, none of my business. You eat what you want.
Okay, that's fair. There's nothing worse than when you're trying to eat something and everyone's like,
Yeah, I know. I'm like, leave my food alone. You haven't got to eat it.
But I mean, we've all done things to try and impress a guy. So I haven't gone quite to the extreme of like.
What's your worst thing you've done to impress a guy?
Oh my God. Now I'm trying to think of really weird stuff that I've done. I think I've done loads of really generic things, like been really into like, I'm not into Formula One. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm into it.
But you have been.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm really into it. I'm not.
You're
I still
loving
don't
it.
get it. Rugby, still don't get it. Goes over my head.
Absolutely no idea, but I'll pretend to watch it.
Fit men in shorts, why not?
Absolutely. I cut a fringe once. A guy was like, oh, you look so nice with fringe. I was like, oh my God, yeah. Cut a fringe. It looked absolutely horrendous. I've got the roundest face. I literally looked awful.
I tried to go blonde once because I thought it'd be a good idea. No, it's not.
We're too dark.
Bad
We can't do
idea. But so I picked up quite a few things on your Instagram that I wanted to talk to you about as well. And one of the ones that I saw was about you talking about your mum's breast cancer diagnosis. And I know that it was a subject that it makes a lot of people very emotional and it's very hard to talk about. So I know that it's going to be like that with you, but do you think that maybe like your plant-based lifestyle has also come as about like you trying to be more healthy and more aware of your own body?
That happened like I went plant-based a long time before my mum's diagnosis. I have seen quite a lot of things in terms of people going plant-based when they find out they've got cancer, and I don't know enough about it really to comment on it. But she was diagnosed, it would have been last summer now. So it's been like over a year. But she basically, her mum had breast cancer very young and died from it. So she was going for routine mammograms. I think it's every like 2 years maybe or something.
Okay.
And she went for one and she was really lucky because the woman who did it was like an expert in doing them. And she have you ever had a mammogram?
No.
So I haven't either, but from what I'm told, they basically like squash your boob between two pieces of glass, which sounds quite horrific, but I think it's quite quick. But she basically put the machine like really far back into like her chest, and when they took the picture, they could see a lump, but they didn't have anything to compare it to because the other scans hadn't gone that far back.
Okay.
So she had to go for I think like a biopsy, and then they were like, yeah, I'm really sorry, it is cancer. I mean, luckily it was stage 1, it was a very small lump, it was caught super early. So had she not have been having those mammograms, like you couldn't feel it.
Okay, yeah.
So if you are someone who is offered a mammogram, like I would definitely say go for it because it was caught so early, they were able to remove it and, remove everything and then follow up with radiotherapy. So she didn't actually have to go through chemo either, which was so good because that can be like horrendous.
Really like taxing on your body.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we were really, really lucky, but it is just like such a shock. I think as soon as you're in the doctor's, like I went with her to the hospital, as soon as you're in the doctor's room and they say like, I'm really sorry, it's cancer, you just instantly, you're like, oh my God.
You think worst case.
You think the worst, like it's awful. But yeah, that's the only thing we can do. I think with any type of cancer, like just be vigilant, like check your boobs all the time. Like I always say to my friends, check your boobs. Like I found a lump actually not long before she got diagnosed and went and had a biopsy and it was fine. It was just like a cyst or whatever. But just make sure you're checking. And also like check them. I think the easiest way to check them, I find, is if you're in the shower with shower gel, because then you're like slippery. So if there's something there to feel, you can really like feel the lump.
Yeah.
And there's loads of things online on like how to check them and stuff.
I think it's really nice that there's loads of like demonstrations and ways that you can check as well. But my mum had a diagnosis, not of breast cancer, of bowel cancer a few years ago. And like my reaction to hearing the word cancer, I was only 14. I just walked out and I didn't come home for the whole day.
Oh my God.
So what was it like when you had your mum's diagnosis?
Well, I was like upset, like we had a little cry at first, but I was quite like obviously shocked, but also wanted to be positive like for her.
Yeah.
And didn't want her to be, I think as well, because her mum had died from it, it was like that was her instant thought, like this is what's going to happen now. Like you almost don't hear them saying, oh, it's stage 1 or it's really small or, you know, hopefully we'll be able to remove it. So yeah, that was the instant thought. But yeah, it's just so stressful. It's awful, isn't it? I mean, you know, it's so scary. But yeah, I think just support. And I would have to say that NHS were amazing. Like they were so fast. She was booked in for a surgery within like a couple of weeks, like in, out. Operation was done like really well. Her scar was like not too bad.
I guess with your nan's diagnosis as well, I'm guessing like it's something you kind of prepare for because you know it might be a possibility, but you can't prepare until it happens.
When you go for the appointment, or when you know probably the same for you, when they're being like tested, you are preparing yourself for the worst, but like in the back of your mind, I think you always have like, oh, like it will be fine. Like we'll go and they'll just be like, oh no, sorry, like it's nothing. I think you're always, so when they actually say it, you're like, oh my God, that's not what I was expecting. Now how are we dealing with this? How's your mum now, by the way?
She's fine now.
Oh, okay,
she
good.
was fine a long time ago.
Yeah.
Bless her. But I think it's always a thing as well that, you know, once you have had it once, there's always a scare about readmissions.
Yeah.
And something coming back.
Yeah.
I think with breast cancer, it is a lot more easier to spot.
It's external, so you can literally remove it and then that's that.
Have you started having mammograms now?
No, I haven't. I don't know what age you're offered them. I think maybe, is it 35?
I think so.
So not yet. But as soon as they do, the same with smear tests, like just go and get it done. I know it's not the favourite thing to do with a Monday morning, but it's 2 seconds, it's over, get it done, and then you can know you're safe.
Did you ever think that it's really weird because having a mum that has had a cancer diagnosis, you learn like a really weird lesson from it. Like I don't think I had a very good relationship with my mum until I thought there was a chance of losing her.
And then you worked on it more.
Yeah. So then for me, it was like a really weird lesson in a way.
Yeah. It's almost like a warning, isn't it? Like rather than if anything like bad was to happen, it's almost like, right, okay, no one's permanent, no one's here forever. I think that happens more as you get older. Like when you're young, you just think that everyone's going to be here forever.
Yeah, and your parents are invincible.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, yeah, it definitely teaches you to kind of cherish everyone around you, really, not just like the person who's had the diagnosis. Of course, they're more in that moment, but like, you know, anyone around you, your grandparents or whoever it is, like no one's going to be here forever. And definitely make the most.
And I think it's like you said, it's really important to just make sure when you get letters to go for those regular screenings, whether it's your smear or a mammogram, like just to take it and to go.
Yeah.
And you know, it's done in 5 minutes.
It's done in 5 minutes. Like it's literally, and it could save your life.
And even if you find like a cyst, because I found a lump once like you did and it ended up being a cyst, then at least you know what to end up looking for.
Exactly. And also the fear that you could be going through thinking, oh my God, I've got this lump, what's going on, what is it, all the rest of it. It actually, if you go and get it checked, they might just put your mind at rest and be like, this is it, you're fine, like move on. And then you're not worrying about it. And that's another thing, like stress and stuff like that is not good. It's been proven, hasn't it? It's not good for our bodies. And you're more likely to get ill if you've got those things going on.
Exactly. Do you think that your mum's diagnosis was part of one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you is about your egg freezing journey? Do you think there's a correlation between your mum's diagnosis and you wanting to do it, or do you think it's a completely separate decision?
No, I would say completely separate. Like I was in a relationship for a few years and I thought like that would be the person that I'd be having kids with in like the next sort of couple of years. And then we split up and I was like, okay, I'm like 31 and I've not got any kids. I know I want children 100%, but I'm not with someone. I don't want to rush into something, have kids with someone who like then it falls apart or like they're just not the right person. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't want to like bring children. I know no one plans to do it in that environment, but do you know what I mean? Like I want it to be like a solid relationship. So I just thought rather than stressing about my age and fertility and that kind of thing, I think like you can have your fertility all like a little bit checked and see kind of what's going on and what they think, like how old maybe you would be able to have children up to. But again, it's not like 100%. But I just thought if I get to 40 and then I'm like, oh, I'm ready to have kids now, it's not guaranteed at that age. Yeah. And I don't want to regret not doing this now when I could have and had like the eggs in the freezer are not guaranteed either, but it's like a backup. It's like an insurance policy. And hopefully like I won't have to use them. And even if, you know, maybe I didn't need to use them, but like if one of my sisters or one of my friends, do you know what I mean, couldn't get pregnant, then I can like donate them to them or something.
There's also
like
a possibility that even if you can't carry because of your age, like a surrogate can and use your eggs at the same time.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what kind of pushed me into it. And when I went, the doctor was actually like, it's really good that you've come now because your eggs are fine now. Like, okay, they're not as good as when you're 18 or 20, but they're fine.
No one's thinking about that 18 or 20.
No, exactly. We're just like, oh, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to be married and I'm going to be having
house
some kids.
With 2 kids. That's what I thought I'd be like at 25.
I was like, yeah, 26. No, it's a bit old. I think I'll start earlier. And now I'm like 32. Like, absolutely not yet. You really change your mind. But yeah, I was like, right, let me do this. And she said she gets people coming that are like 45 and older and they're like, okay, I want a baby. She's like, I'm not a miracle. Like, I'm a doctor. I'm not a miracle worker.
Yeah.
Like, obviously now there's amazing things they can do. You know, you can have donor eggs. You can like adopt. There's loads of different options for you. But that doesn't mean that your egg supply is still going to be there. Like, I think people kind of need to bear that in mind. And it's so hard for women because I feel like the way men and women are and the way we're different, like, women have come on so much in the work environment, like we're, you know, we want to be equal and to do this, that and the other, but our biological clocks haven't caught up to that.
Yeah.
So it's the only thing in some ways which we're never going to be the same as men in that aspect. Like they can have children later, so it's kind of less of a ticking time bomb for them. So I just think like at least be proactive about it. And it's actually like, it is expensive, but it's not as expensive as I think some people would expect it to be. Like for a round, I think it was around 3,000, 3,500.
I thought it was way more than that.
So, and you have to pay like rent. So they're in the freezer. You have to pay rent on the freezer. So I'm paying £300 a year for my eggs to be frozen. I'm like, what if they're power cut? Then what are we going to tell me? They're going to be defrosted?
I love that you went power cut. My first thing was, what if your direct debit bounces? Like, what happens then?
Do they chuck them out?
Yeah, do they stay there? Do they leave? Like,
I don't know. They keep them for 10 years. Now I'm going to think about it. That's another £3,000.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive than you thought. But do you know, like I'm one of those people that I'm never sure if I want kids or not.
Right, okay.
Because when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I definitely want them. And now I'm like, really don't like children.
Changes.
Yeah, and I think it might change again. It might not. There's no guarantee. But then I never thought about my fertility and egg freezing until I saw people like you talking about it more publicly. Do you think it's a good thing that there are people that are now willing to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel like I maybe didn't talk about it enough. Like, I think while I was doing it, it's a little, like, I don't want to put people off at all, but I did like 3 months, no drinking, no anything fun, not like no I don't smoke, but like, do you know what I mean? No nicotine, no like loads of fizzy drinks, no awful food. Like, I was like pretty healthy. I went to see a nutritionist before I started and like kind of stuck to a bit of a diet plan and did all of that because apparently your eggs go in like 3-month cycles. So if you do that for 3 months before, you should get like healthy eggs. So yeah, I was like quite strict with it. So by the time I got to the egg freezing actual thing where I started injecting, I was dying for a glass of wine. And I was like, and then you're injecting yourself with all these hormones. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going insane. Like, I'm absolutely mental at this point.
Yeah, because I think that terrifies me, the idea of having to inject yourself with hormones.
Oh, that was the least bad part of it.
Oh, okay.
Like the actual injecting, the first day I did it, I was like, oh no, this is going to be so fine. Walk in the park.
Okay.
Absolutely fine. Sounds weird.
Yeah.
But fine. Like, wouldn't care, would do it. And then by the end of it, it's like 3 a day, which was fine. Like that.
I love that you make this sound so easy. And in my head, I'm like,
well, I don't think everyone finds it. I just didn't mind. And when some of them you have to make up, the only thing I was scared of, I'm like, I don't think I'm qualified. So I'm like mixing these, like sucking the water out of one thing, like getting the powder from another, like squirting it in and making this injection. I was like, guys, am I allowed to do this? Like tapping the bubbles out. I was like, what if I get an air bubble like in me? This isn't good.
I don't think I'm ready for this kind of level of adulting. I can barely feed myself, so I don't really know like if I can do something like that.
I know, and the same time every day, that's a big commitment.
That is, but you know, like I can't even commit to taking the pill. So
yeah, no, maybe like wait a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for that level
yet. It's only 2 weeks though of injecting.
Okay, that's or not less, too bad.
Like it's not too bad, but you get really like, I don't know if this is too much information.
There's no such thing, I don't think, on this podcast.
Your ovaries go from like, they're normally like 2 centimeters each.
Okay.
And they grow to like 10 centimeters each. So you feel like must feel like you're pregnant. Like it's like heavy.
Okay.
And you're so bloated. Like I looked pregnant.
And then that's when they extract.
Yeah, and then they extract.
That's painful.
You're asleep. Okay. I was asleep.
Oh, okay.
Stunning. Love a general anesthetic.
I hate general anesthetic. Yeah, it makes me really ill afterwards. But like,
oh really?
Yeah, like uncontrolled, like projectile vomiting.
Wow.
But then, like, I guess if they know that's going to happen, they'll do something about it.
Yeah.
It's like because I've seen like people like Vicky Patterson start posting pictures of them going through the process, and it does look terrifying.
Yeah, it's
maybe to me because I have no understanding of it whatsoever.
It's just intense. So when you're injecting, you have to go for a scan every other day. So it's like an internal scan every other day, which is like not thrilled. Do you know what I mean? Mm. And then they check, and you can like see them at all the scans, and they're like growing and growing and growing. And then when you go for the extraction, you have a scan on that day, and then you go into theatre. They put you to sleep, and then you wake up. The only thing I was quite surprised, like you don't have any incisions or anything because it's literally like a needle.
Okay.
So you're not cut or in pain in that way, but they're like, you can feel like your stomach's been, I think they have to like maybe push on your stomach so they can reach them. So like you just feel like uncomfortable.
Okay.
That's the best way I can describe it.
The things really that women have to do, like, no, you're actually not to me, to other people that are like genuinely wanting to do it.
I want to do it again. I've literally.
You want to do it again?
I've got to do it again. I didn't get that many, so I've got to go again.
How many is many?
So I got 9, but only 4 of them were good. And they want you to have like 12 to kind of ensure a live birth. I know.
So you could potentially have to do it if you got the same result 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's $3,000 a pop every time.
Yeah. I know. Think of all the handbags.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, if you really want children, then you're going to have to give up the Chanel anyway.
I know. I'm like, if I get to 40 and then they're like, no, you should have done this earlier, I'll be so upset.
You would. And I think that's the thing. And I think that's probably why I'm now even like thinking about it. Because if it wasn't for people talking about it, I would never have thought about it at all.
This is the thing. And then it's just, they're there, then aren't they? They're in the freezer. It's an insurance policy. It's actually like, say you were married or you were with someone and you knew you wanted to have kids much later. So it's actually much safer to freeze embryos, because if you just do eggs, it's only 1 cell.
Okay.
So they're quite delicate. So the freezing and thawing can like damage them. Whereas if it's an embryo, they've already watched it develop. They kind of know which ones are good. Okay. And they're much stronger. So if you knew it was a particular person, which I mean, I've not got a clue, then you could do it with them.
It's really weird that you say that, because knowing me, that if I had a baby that was a frozen embryo, I would just be like, I used to keep you in a freezer. Like that's when
you cost me £300 a year before you arrived
in the freezer.
Now it's even more.
You used to be a lot quieter when you were in the freezer.
You were so much easier. Also, when I do more, I'm like, wait, when I do more, am I on the same rent? Like, have I got a shelf now and they'll just put them all there? or like, have I got
just
to go
rent
again?
In floor space, or have I got individual rooms?
Yeah, exactly.
This is how you can tell that I'm not ready for children, by this is what is my thought process, and not like the actual really serious repercussions or like medical thought of having to go through something like this. Yeah, I'm just thinking about whether your direct debit bounces or not.
I know. No, I would just say to everyone though, like, if you have got that money and you think you'd be really sad if at like 45 you were told you couldn't have kids, I'm like, just do it. Just do it for an insurance.
Do you think there's stigma around women freezing their eggs and potentially having children later?
So like, I was thinking this. So while I was doing it, I like didn't like date anyone or like really. I was like, oh God, if I went on a date with a guy and they're like, oh, how are you? Like, oh, I'm not drinking and freezing my eggs. I was like, I feel like I sound like 75 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't feel like guys would understand that either. So they'd think you're a little bit crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, do I seem like really psycho? Like, oh, I'm obsessed with having a baby. Like, if anything, it's the opposite. I'm like doing it so that I don't have to have one yet. But does it sound a bit crazy?
maybe it's just the wrong kind of person you're on a date with if they think you sound crazy.
Maybe.
That's just not the one.
I mean, that's probably who I'm on a date with, to be honest, knowing my taste.
My God. No, because I was always wondering, like, there is always a stigma around like women wanting to have kids early, women wanting to have kids later, and especially in like the workplace and stuff like that. There's always like those conversations that you're never going to be as good as your job if you're off having kids and stuff.
Yeah, this is true. If you're having the time off. But the thing is, you can't progress as much if you have like 2 years or 3 years off as someone that stayed there the whole time. Like it's pretty impossible.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I was just thinking like about what I can't ask something like that.
No, ask. I want to know what it is. It can
I
get
was
cut
just
out.
like, well, I they keep them for 10 years, but like, is it 10 years because when they're frozen, it's like
Gone off. Like that's the sell by. I reckon maybe. I don't know. I haven't asked. Like it's really weird as well because you have to sign a form saying like, oh, I think it's like if you die, like what should we do with them? And I was like, whoa, I don't really know.
All of a sudden this has got really deep. Like I thought it was going to be really like a dark conversation about like wanting children and stuff. And now all of a sudden you have to think about every aspect of your life.
That's why I found it so intense. Like every time you go to an appointment, I'm like, oh, and there's loads of couples that are like going through fertility treatment. Like I just found being in that environment very, very intense.
Do they make you go through like therapy sessions and stuff like that when you do something like
I think it's available, but I didn't do it, which is probably why I found it so difficult.
So if you were to do it again, would you have taken those sessions?
No, because I think now I know what's going to happen, so I'll be all right. But also I like recorded loads of, it was in January, like no, it was in March, which is like grim. The weather's grim. Like I'm always sad when the weather's horrible.
Yeah.
So I was like recording all these videos because I wanted to make a YouTube about it and like to talk about the whole process. But I watch them back now and I'm just so sad and I'm crying in every single video. I'm like, I can't put this anywhere.
You are injecting yourself
so
with
embarrassing.
hormones.
I know. But yeah, I haven't yet shared it. I haven't found the balls to share it.
I think you should, because I think the one thing is that people love stuff like that because they like to see the real side of what they're doing.
I know, but it's just so scary because I feel like I'm being so overly honest. And I'm like, oh, that is just making me feel so awful about being single and why I haven't met someone yet and that I'm having to do this. And I'm like, I can't fucking publicise this.
Do you feel awful for being single?
No, not really. I'm having a fantastic time.
I was going to say, because I've been trying to get India on this podcast for months and every time I speak to her, she is not in the country. So I'm like, do you actually feel awful about being single right now?
No, in summer I'm having the best time. But like when you've done no drinking for 3 months, January to March, and you're injecting yourself with hormones, like it's a different story.
Yeah, fair enough. Cuffing season is really hitting you.
Yeah,
right
you're literally
then.
like sat in the rain like, oh, I'm cuddling the dog at home.
Basically, if you really want to have your eggs frozen, you should always like take India's advice on all of this because it sounds so much fun. But I don't even know how you would kind of approach that conversation with a partner though.
What, like if you're with someone and you're like,
Yeah,
okay, I
like-
want to freeze my eggs, but not with you.
Or even if you've like, when you meet someone, how do you tell them that you've frozen your eggs?
Oh, I think that's fine. I'll just be like,
Are
oh
you
yeah,
fine
I've
with
got-
that?
Yeah, I've got some eggs in the freezer.
Oh, I'm very awkward about telling people certain things. So I wouldn't even know how to like approach that conversation.
I don't like, yeah, I would literally just tell them. Well, not only if it came up in conversation, like if they were like, oh, do you want kids?
Okay.
Like, or something like that, then I would say, oh yeah, I've actually like frozen some eggs. Not wanting to scare you or anything, but there is some eggs.
I've already named all of them.
Yeah.
Ready.
Which one would you like? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Goes all the way up to 12,
Yeah.
just in case you're wondering.
Hopefully.
How many do you want?
Kids.
Yeah. I mean, how many eggs do you want as well? Like,
I mean,
while we're
eggs
at it?
like 50. I'd like 50. Like, no, wait, no.
I was going to say,
I would like, no, it's like when I do my next round, if I got like 15, I'd be so happy. Some people get so many. One of my friends just did it. She's like 40. She got like 20 eggs. I know.
I didn't even know we had that many in us.
I know. You're born with all your eggs. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I obviously there would be 20 in there, but
Yeah.
So how many kids do you
I
want?
would like 4. I'm one of 4, so I'd like 4. But I need to get a
okay.
bloody move on. I'm 32. Like, I don't know when I'm popping these kids out.
To be fair, my nan had kids at 45.
Did she? How many did she have?
She had twins. She was told she couldn't have kids, and then at 45, she was pregnant with twins.
That. That's amazing. You might have twins then. Were they identical or non-identical?
Yeah, they're identical.
Oh.
And no one else in my family's had twins yet. So no,
and
my
did
luck,
you know it
would be-
skips a generation?
Yeah, so no, in my luck, it will be me.
That's lovely. I'd love twins. So fun.
I was 10.5 pounds.
Oh,
I don't
Jesus
want two
Christ.
of them.
Absolutely not. That's impossible to carry.
My mum's
surely.
5 foot as well, so
No, it's fine. I think the size of the baby is determined by the dad's side, like what they were when they were a baby.
Okay, so I won't date any really
like date
big
someone who's like,
babies.
what did you weigh when you were born?
And if they say they were really heavy, you're just like, nah, sorry, I don't think it's going to work. Not for me, thank you.
See you later.
Do you always think that, like, you went privately for your egg freezing?
Yeah.
I don't actually know if it's something that's offered on the NHS.
I don't think it is now, unless you're going to undergo chemo or maybe even radiotherapy, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, if you're going to have something that could affect your eggs, then they do offer to freeze them. But I don't think for like just general people they offer that,
Because it's quite hard when you talk about it, because I'm sure you've probably got followers that want to do the same process, but the affordability is not there.
Yeah, like obviously I'm really lucky that I'm able to. I think you do get one round of IVF now on the NHS, but don't quote me on that. So I don't know if it's something maybe they would do in the future. Like now they have the science. I heard somewhere the other day too, if there's a small child that's going to have chemotherapy, they can actually remove an ovary and then grow it externally for however long and then put it back when they've undergone all their cancer treatment.
I'm learning so much from you. Like, you can tell on my face that I'm like, what? I didn't even know any of this stuff was a thing. Like,
Sorry, but it's supposed to be so lighthearted, turning into a science lesson.
I'm actually really appreciative of, because I have no idea about anything. Like, I just know that women's bodies are so complex.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
And intense that you can't physically know everything about.
No, but also so clever.
That is true. I think the one thing I was always really scared of, that's why I wanted to ask you personally about the egg freezing stuff, whether it was going to hurt or not.
No,
But now
like
you've
I
made
would
me
say,
feel a lot better about it.
I would say uncomfortable afterwards and uncomfortable when you're like quite ovaries are swollen, but it's not painful.
What would your advice be to me if I said to you that I was going to go and get it done?
So I would say just be really kind to yourself while you're going through it and be aware that your body's going to change a little bit and it will obviously go back. But just know that that's going to happen. And afterwards, the worst part for me was doing the injections. You feel a little bit hormonal, but it was afterwards. And then when you get your first period afterwards, it's like, whoa, I felt like I've been hit by a train. So just be prepared for that. It's just the emotional thing, and like have your friends around you, like talk to them, talk about how you're feeling, because also most of it's like probably totally normal, or talk to other people that have done it. Like if someone messaged me now and was like, right, I'm doing this, I'd be like, well, message me whenever, because some days you probably are going to feel like shit.
Yeah, because I don't know anybody personally that's done it.
Yeah.
And like my parents don't really deal with that stuff. So I just don't feel like I know anyone personally that I can speak to about it that's had it done. I think that's the lack of support that I feel like I would have is something that does put me off about just going for it and doing it.
Yeah, I would definitely speak to me. Like I would be open to speak to anyone that's having it done and wants like advice or whatever. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask.
I mean, I've learned so much, so you're the best person to ask for me.
But yeah, it is, it's fine. You've just got to like focus, get through it. And it's like a short time in your life, isn't it? And probably not drinking for a couple of months or whatever is good for us.
I mean,
anyway.
I did that for the marathon, so you know, nothing can be as painful as that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, babe, I think I'd rather do the eggs than the marathon. I'd do the eggs 3 times before I ran a marathon. Jesus.
Yeah, if I can get through that, I feel like I can get through anything, whether it's freezing or eggs. Terrible. So painful. I don't want to. I've signed up to do next year, so it can't be that bad.
What? Oh my god, it's like childbirth. You forget and do it again.
Yeah, that must be what it is. Yeah,
that's mental that you're going to do it again. Literally 26 miles.
I think I'd rather run 26 miles than birth a child right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I think I'd rather give birth. Running 26 miles? I couldn't even run 26
I was 10.5
meters.
pounds.
Yeah, true. It's C-section all day.
Yeah, it would have to be a sunroof job and not through the actual like, normal way. I don't know how my mum did it, because they only got bigger from that. My brother was heavier than me, so
oh my god, huge baby.
Praying for his future wife.
Yeah.
He's got big head as well.
R.I.P.
Sorry,
vagina. Sorry.
What would you say to people that have any doubts about your decisions over freezing your eggs?
What do you mean doubts? Like they think it's a bad idea?
Or like, yeah, people that think that, you know, it's just Well, because there's loads of people out there that think like stuff like this is like unnatural and not right.
Yeah.
And
I just think like everyone should mind their own business. Like I honestly think anything that anyone's doing is just their choice. Like things like this, it's not like affecting anyone else. I know some people are really against like the science. They think everything should happen naturally. That's fine. That's their beliefs, but that's their business. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they should be opinionated on anyone else's decisions.
yeah. I normally finish the podcast on a similar question.
Okay.
So what would you say to people that doubt your future successes based on the fact that you're a woman?
Oh my God, you could have warned
Very
me.
intense. Yeah, I probably could have told you when I was going through when I was texting you being like, what do you want to talk about? I probably should have dropped that one in there.
Wait, can you say the question again?
What would you say to people that doubt your future successes based on the fact that you're a woman?
Oh my God, that's so hard. Like you need to let me prepare.
Yeah, I
for
should have
things
said
like
this earlier. I'm
like,
so sorry.
What have other people said? I don't have a clue.
Do you know what? I think it was, maybe I should say to you, like, what would, how do I reword it for you? What would you say to people that have basically, now I'm stuck about how to reword it.
I guess for me, like I would always want to like, if like anyone's like doubting, then you just want to prove them wrong. So use that as your, I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly here, but use that almost.
Answer.
It's not a wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer.
Like you use that as your motivation to like push harder for what you want, to go for what you want. And I think now there is a change. And like for me, I'd love to see more like women supporting women. I think that sometimes is missed, not with like us a lot, but you know, some people. So I think like support other women. I'm not really making sense, am I?
No, you are, to be fair. I'm just thinking of things in my head that I shouldn't say out loud. So like, that's why my face has gone a bit blank.
Yeah, like use other people's doubt as a motivation. That's what I would say.
No, I think that's a really good way to end the podcast. And I'm sorry that I just
No, it's
dropped
fine.
that question
It's fine.
on you.
I just wish I'd listened to other
people.
people's answers. I knew which track to go down.
I think I wanted to ask you something about like people that wanted to doubt your decision for wanting to have kids like later on in life, but
Oh yeah, I did get a bit of that.
Did you?
They were like, oh, it's just selfish that you want to like do whatever you want, live your life the way you want, and then later you're just going to rely on science. And I was like,
do you know what I think is really selfish? Not doing things you want to and then projecting that onto your children when you've had them.
exactly.
So
Well done.
There's a
Well
thought.
said.
Yeah. Well, keep going on holidays. I'm jealous. I'm living vicariously through you at this current moment in time.
See you in Mykonos.
Yeah. I'll see you in Mykonos. I won't ask you any more horrible questions at Mykonos.
Great.